go. I'm going to. I don't know if people, if it helped people yesterday or not. Oh, why does it do that? Why do you mock me, computer? Okay. You can see if this works again. Let's see if we can do this. Cool. All right, we got this. It's supposed to be looking at my beautiful face. I'll give you a page to look at. Ready? I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to get coffee before I left. Even if I had,
Oh, I'm sorry.
stuck with it. Well, ran out because I need to make more.
So sorry.
It would have been instant anyway.
So sorry. I know the feeling. All right, we are starting. We are in Hey A. We are in Hey Amud Aleph. We are 3 lines from the top. Huh? What'd you say? Yeah, it's a pretty small page. Yeah, it's a pretty small page. Yeah, it's a pretty small page. Okay, we're 3 lines from the top, three words in. It says Vitana Kama Verbi Shimon. That ends up the line. Shimon ben Elazar. Okay, so until now, right now, we have been talking about. Did you just sign in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. I just saw you pop up. I'm like, hey, he's here twice. He said, that's okay. That's good. So we're three lines at the top. It says V'tana Kama Shimon. Now we are talking about Ba'al Ta'acher, which is the amount of time that one, the minimum amount of time before one violates the Avera of lingering too long by paying up their debts to either their halachic debts to the Beis Hamikdash or to Aniyim. We saw, and some of the Madnas Niyam, some of the things that have to be given to the poor people, and other stuff. We'll see. It's going to flash the whole thing out. So the reason this came up is because the Mishnah had mentioned that Nisan was the beginning. It was the Rosh Hashanah for the years when it comes to holidays. The Gemara said holidays. First of all, it's not Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So you're right, 15th of Nisan. That's what Pesach is. Fine. Then when Pesach is the beginning of the cycle of the holidays of the Regalim, and therefore that starts the clock. That starts the proverbial stopwatch on when you will have violated, after passing all 3 of the Yom Tovim, Pesach, Shavuos, and then Sukkot, you will have violated your Avera of Baal Ta'acher, and you've taken too long to pay up your debts, and a person has violated the Avera. So the Gemara was talking about that. That's the conversation. And the Gemara is going to continue with that conversation. Before it does, the Gemara had said that it learned different things from the juxtaposition of those 3 holidays in the Pasuk and Pasuk Tasayin that we quoted in the previous page. It sums up the all 3 of the holidays together, and some of the Tanaim use that verse for one thing, some use it for the other thing. We're left now with the Tanakh and Rabbi Shimon needing a source that you can have 7 days to make up your korban from Shavuos. And now that might sound intuitive for 2 of the holidays, for Sukkot and Pesach, that you'd have 7 days to make it up. But for Shavuos is a 1-day holiday. It comes and goes like the blink of an eye. Why would you have 7 days? Where would that 7 days come from that you can make up your korban? And the Gemara is going to find us. The Gemara gave sources on the previous daf for some of the other opinions. The Gemara is left with Tanakh Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Tashlumin atzeres minolahu. Where did they know that you have 7 days to make up your korban after Shavuos? Now again, 4 lines from the top. Tashlumin atzeres minolahu. So Gemara says, Nafgalu miditani Rabbi Bar Shmuel. They learn it from. Hold on one second. I just want to push one more step. I'm starting to learn how to use this site, and this is actually really nice. I don't know if it works for everybody else, but hopefully it does. Nafgalu miditani Rabbi Bar Shmuel. They learn it from Rabbi Bar Shmuel taught the Tani Rabbi Bar Shmuel Amra Torah. The Torah says Minei Yamim. Oh gosh, Minei Yamim v'Kadesh Chodesh. Minei Yamim v'kadosh atzeres. It says by Rosh Chodesh you count days, and then you declare Rosh Chodesh, right? You count. It says Rashi says over here, Minei Yamim Shenamar Ad Yom Chodesh Yamim. You count up to a certain amount of days, and then it becomes Rosh Chodesh. So too by Atzeres, you're Minei Yamim v'kadosh Atzeres. You count days, and you keep Atzeres. Here referring to Shavuos. Ma Chodesh l'menuyav av Atzeres l'menuyav. Just like Chodesh is the amount of days it is, that's the amount of Rosh Chodesh it is. So af Atzeres, so too Shavuos. The count that you use, the form of count that you use to get up to Shavuos, that is the form of Atzeres you have, the time you have to bring your korban. So basically it's saying, let's just sum that up for a second. You count days, and you count days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until you hit your 29 or 30 days respectively, and you and keep Rosh Chodesh for that amount of time. So too when you do Shavuos, the Gemara is saying you count weeks, and then you do 1 week of Shavuos when it comes to its korban. Of course, it's only 1 day of Shavuos when it comes to the Yontif, but 1 week of Shavuos when it comes to its korban. The Gemara says, "Wait, what? Ema atzeres chad yoma? What do you mean? We count days? So say we count 49 days until you have Sfiros Omer until we hit Shavuos. So say it should only be 1 day." The Gemara says, "Amar Rava, atu atzeres yomi minyanen shvui lo minyanen." Do you only count days? I don't know what shul you go to. Do you only count days when you do Shmini, when you count up to Shavuos? You only count days. You don't count weeks. We count weeks too. Bamar mar mitzvah liminyane yome or mitzvah liminyane shvuye. There's a mitzvah to both count days and to count weeks. And therefore it goes after the weeks. You see that the weeks has a certain prominence when it 7 weeks, when it comes leading up to Shavuos. So therefore there is a week of its korban. And that is how we know it. The Gemara says, and not only just because we count weeks, Chag HaShavuos ksiv. It's called Chag HaShavuos after all. It's the regal of weeks. So there is a week that allows its korban. Again, just as I mentioned parenthetically yesterday, that is why there is a custom for 7 days after Shavuos not to say tachanim, because the korban of the tashlumin could have been brought for 7 days. What does the korban of the tashlumin and tachanim have to do with each other? Good question. In any case, but either way, but it shows that there's some sort of lingering of the holiday for those days after. Now, we've ended that conversation. What all the psukim do? How do we know all the different tashlumin of the korbanos? We've ended that. Now the Gemara is going to go back and start to flesh out what it said on a previous topic. It quoted a brisa, and it listed about like 14 different things. This was, I don't want to start to mess with my page here, but this was on Daf. It was on the bottom of. It started on the bottom of Daf Dalet Amud Aleph. It said, Tara Rabbanan, last 2 lines of Daf Dalet Amud Aleph. It says, Chave Adama va'erechen v'acharami v'akdeshes v'achatayis v'hashamas v'olos shlamim stakas ma'aser bechor ma'aser pesach laka chichel peya. All those things. It listed this laundry list of things. It says if you have passed those 3 holidays after you pass Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, and you haven't paid those debts up, you are toast. That is when you have violated your Vivera. So now the Gemara is going to say, hey, how do you know all those? But before it does that, it's going to ask specifically about Pesach. Pesach stands out like a sore thumb to the Gemara in that list. Because Pesach, what's the difference if you bring it later? Pesach is supposed to be brought on Yudalid, going into the night of Pesach, and it's supposed to be eaten at your Seder, and you can't eat it after Chatzais, whatever. But you have till Olos Hashachar. But whatever it is, there's nothing coming. Like, what is Pesach going to help you? So what is this? Pesach? Wait, Pesach bar mikra bergolamu? How is Pesach subject to this whole thing? How is it subject to this? Pesach zimna kiviyolai. it has a specific time that you can bring the Pesach. As a matter of fact, you're not allowed to leave it over to morning. There's nothing. It has a specific time. So if it's brought, it's brought. If it's not, you've missed your Pesach. Of course, unless the person was tummy, in which case you'd have a Pesach Sheni. But besides that, the Pesach can't be brought any other time. So how is Pesach applicable to this whole list? So Amar of Chisda says, you're right. Pesach Kidei Nasva. Pesach doesn't really belong there. Pesach is, Gemara answered this in a number of places, that sometimes when it gives groupings, sometimes it just gives that group as a group. It's mentioned in the group, and it doesn't really mean it. It doesn't mean it means that group of Karbanos, but you're right, Pesach wouldn't be included. I'm not positive if that means that that the Tana of the Brisa was just not careful in his phraseology. Really, he shouldn't have done that, or that's really a stylistic thing that they did it on purpose. But in any case, Pesach Kidei Nasva. Rav Sheshes Amar, Rav Sheshes says a different possibility. He offers a possibility why Pesach would belong there. My Pesach Shamei Pesach. My Pesach Shamei Pesach. So the Gemara says, you know what Pesach's talking about? It's talking about Shamei Pesach. It's a case where the following happened. If a person, I believe it's, he lost his Korban Pesach. You can imagine such a thing happening. All these people coming, bringing a Pesach, and then his gets runs away and I'm in trouble. Wow, what am I going to tell my wife? Now he's in big trouble. So he's got to go designate another Pesach. It's pretty crazy to keep track on your specific animal. In any case, we're talking about tons of animals there. But he designates another animal for the Pesach to get him back in line, and then lo and behold, he finds his Pesach. Now, one of them are going to become. That means that the first one, the first one is going to become a shlamim. No, I think the first one, if he finds the Pesach, I think if he brings the first one, the second, the new one designated will become a shlamim. In any case, one of them becomes a shlamim. You can't bring two Korban Pesachs. So a Pesach follows it follows almost the exact halachas of a shlamim. It defaults into a shlamim. So it says it this. Ihachi hainu shlamim. So what are you talking about? What's your issue? Why was Pesach listed in that laundry list of things that a person could violate Baal Ta'achar for? I mean, shlamim's already in there. So if you want to say that we're talking about a Pesach that got lost and therefore it becomes a shlamim, his replacement animal becomes a shlamim. Well, shlamim's there already. So why are you putting Pesach in? You're just listing it twice. It's just keep it under shlamim. So Gemara says, yeah, you're right. Now we're talking about kind of two categories of shlamim, because this is a shlamim that came from a different source, as opposed to a person designating a shlamim head on. This person designated a Pesach, and it defaulted into a shlamim when push came to shove and he got his carbon ready. This Pesach defaulted into a shlamim. So now we have a shlamim that was designated originally as a shlamim, and a shlamim that started off as a Pesach and became a shlamim. So there's two kinds of shlamim. What's the difference? Tana shlamim by machmas Pesach, tana shlamim by machmas atzman. And why do we say both? The reason being, I hate when it does that. The reason being, because you might think to say, since this animal, it started off as a Korban Pesach, it's coming originally as a Pesach, so Pesach Damo, maybe, even though now it's a Shlamim, maybe you would only get this one holiday for it. You would only get Pesach for it. There's a Kamash Malan that you get all three holidays. So again, it's just answered what Pesach means in this brisa. Why did you list Pesach as having three holidays before you violate the Aveira of Baal Ta'achar? We're talking about a Pesach, not talking about a Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach can only be brought on the night of Pesach. We're talking about a Pesach that somehow was not brought because a different Pesach was brought in its place. It became a shlamim, and for that Pesach you have three holidays, and it differs from a regular Korban Pesach. Potentially, you need to list it because the difference from regular shlamim, rather, because you might think that since it's coming, it started off as a Korban Pesach, it would only get one holiday, just like a regular Pesach. Mashallah, not, it gets 3 holidays. Fine, that's what that was talking about. Now the Gemara is going to go and discuss the source for all that list. I don't know if it was, again, it's the list on the bottom of Daled of an Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom. Tanur Rabbanan, it gave a list of all the things that a person will violate Baal Ta'acher if they don't bring on time, if they don't bring by after 3 holidays. Again, we saw 5 or 6 different opinions: 3 holidays, 2 holidays, 1 holiday, 3 holidays in order. But whatever case, let's go after Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot is brought. If he doesn't bring all of these promises, he has violated the Avera of Baal Ta'acher. There's a list, and how do we know that list? Minani Mili. The Gemara continues. Top, the first line on Daf Hey Amud Beis. Minani Mili. How do we know this? The Tanur Rabbanan, following Brisa. Ki Sidor Neder. The verse says, it says, Ki Sidor Neder LaHashem Elokecha Lo Se'acher L'Shamo. If a person brings that whole verse is not in the regular standard of the Gemara. I'm reading it from the pops up here on the bottom of my screen. But kisi do neder, if a person makes a neder la Hashem lokech la Hashem lo sa'acher la shamo, you can't delay paying up that neder. Ki darish the yidirshanu Hashem. Hashem's going to be Hashem lokech. Hashem's going to be darish it. Me'imcha v'haya b'cha chet. He was going to be darish it from you. He's going to kind of search. He's been seeking it from you, and it's going to be an avera for you. So we're going to darshan we're going to learn out almost every word of that pasuk. It's the pasuk starts ki sidor neder. So the first 2 things listed on that list of the brisa on the bottom of Daled Amud Aleph, a page and a half ago, on the bottom of Daled Amud Aleph, the first 2 things listed that you need to pay up on time was a neder and a nadava. A nadava being something that you say this animal is donated to the Beis Hamikdash. This specific animal. A neder meaning I will donate an animal to the Beis Hamikdash. There's a very big difference. If I say this specific animal is donated to the Beis Hamikdash, that's a nadava. So then if that animal gets lost, I don't necessarily have to make that up. It was this animal, I don't know that animal. A neder, I have to donate an animal. If that animal gets lost that I intended to use, great, go get a different one. So in any case, either way, neder and nadava, it says those are the first 2 that it listed has to be paid up on time. The pasuk though, when it quotes the pasuk, it says ki sidor neder. It doesn't mention an nadava in the avera of Baal Ta'acher. Where did you get nadava from? It says ela nadava minayin nemar neder. Nemar kan neder, v'nemar lahalan im nadar o nadava. You see the verses generally group for the halachas, generally group neder and nadava together. It's a gezerah shava, so to speak, over here. I guess it's an actual gezerah shava. The Gemara doesn't call it a gezerah shava, but in any case, neder. It says above. It says neder and nadava together. Ma lahalan, just like up there in the upper verse. Oh, gosh, why do you do this to me? Why do you hate me? Okay. Oh, malahala nadava imo, just like above, nadava gets grouped with the neder. Avkan nadava imo, even though the verse doesn't say here nadava, but it says neder, so nadava gets schlepped along with that. So that's that. So both neder and nadava have problems of Baal Ta'acher. You can't delay giving them. Then pasuk then continues la Hashem Elokecha. It says kisi do neder la Hashem Elokecha, to Hashem. Elu, that includes, we learned from the words la Hashem Elokecha, Elu hadamim, ha'erechin, v'acharamim, v'akdeshos. These are the other things that you would be donating to Hashem Elokecha, meaning to the Beis Hamikdash. If you different values and assessments of money and hekdesh that you would give to the Beis Hamikdash in order for the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash. So those 2 are included in Baal Ta'acher, and don't delay paying them. Then the pasuk continues, says, Lo sa'acher l'shalmo. Now, it's just an interesting thing over here. The Gemara is going to pick on it later. It says, Lo sa'acher l'shalmo. Oh, no, I guess over here. Lo sa'acher l'shalmo. Don't delay paying it. Sounds kind of singing. It sounds like, so we learned what's it. So it's kind of singular. It says, so they learn out from that. Hu v'lo chilufa. It, and not it's anything that is a substitute of it. If you made a substitute for one of these things, see what that means. The Gemara is not going to know what that means. It's not going to get back to it for a few lines. But if you made a substitute, there you will have more time. We'll see what that means. But the Gemara right now leaves it. It doesn't pick on it. Ki drosh yidroshanu, because darosh yidroshanu. Actually, if you're looking at my screen, nakudas on here are wrong. I don't know how these nakudas are on here or not, but this page works out nicely that it gives it for those who are observing, but they don't always seem to be right. But either way, but still does a great job. Ki darosh yidroshanu. Because Hashem is going to seek it. Elu, what is that coming to include? Elu chatois hashamos, olu tishlamim, things that either you have to be that you have to go and bring to the base of Mikdash because of Averos, the Olos, the Chatais and the Hashamos, or things that you go seek Hashem out from the Olos and the Shlamim. In any case, those karbanos are included in that. Hashem lo kacha, and then it says afterwards, it says Ki darosh yidroshanu Hashem lo kacha. Hashem your God will be dorish. He will be seeking those. What's that? Why does it again mention Hashem lo kacha? Elot stakos ma'asos b'chor. These are different things that you it's coming to include those stakos ma'aser and b'chor that you have, that those also are applicable to Baal Ta'acher. Me'imach ki darosh yidroshanu Hashem lo kacha me'imach, from you. And the Gemara says zelak et shechal peya. It's using like imach to be like from your nation. So even from the ani of your nation. So it's lachat and shechal and peya, the different contributions, the different stakos that you need to give to an ani, to a poor person from your field. Lachat shechal and peya is the end of the field. Shechal things you forgot in the field. Lachat things that fell while you were reaping the field. Whatever it is, those things also you have the 3 holidays to pass before you violated Baal Ta'acher. We learned from the word me'imach. V'yavacha chet. And if you don't, it will be for you on Avera. So it says, what do we learn from that? That's the last three words of that pasach. V'lo karban chachet. It's going to be an Avera for you, but your karban won't be considered a chet. Meaning that even though you've passed the 3 holidays, so you've done an Avera by passing the 3 holidays. However, it's an Avera like if God forbid does something else wrong, like they ate something non-kosher, God forbid. So there they've done an Avera, and then they move on, right? So here too, if a person passes the 3 holidays, they've done an Avera. However, the item itself still needs to be given. That means you've done an Avera by waiting so long, but you still need to give it. It doesn't pater you. It doesn't invalidate the korban that needs to be brought, or the hektish that needs to be given, or the tzedakah that needs to be given. You still need to go bring it. So you still need to follow through. As a matter of fact, I think it's we'll see later. I think I think it's in a daf or 2 from now. It's going to talk about how often what's the timeline after the 3 pass. I think it's a Rava. Later, it's going to come up and say that every day you're violating now. Now you have each day. So if after the 3 holidays pass, I'm pretty sure that's what he says. You have, Monday you violate, Tuesday you violate, Wednesday you got it. You have to go rush to it. Go get to it. So okay.
How do you make up for that?
Huh?
Well, now that you put it in there, you got to do something. Like stats and bring other programs.
You have to whatever the makeup for that affair is. I think I'm pretty sure you should donate to the Portland Call. So Amar it says somewhere in Rashi. So it says Amar Mar. So now there was one statement though, which we said earlier, a couple of lines before, about 4 or 5 lines up, that was somewhat enigmatic to the Gemara. It said Lo tza'acher l'shalmo hu v'lo chilufav. So it says you shouldn't delay paying it. That means paying it, but the same template, the same timeline of los acher will not apply to its chilufav, to its substitute. In a case where you need to substitute one of the karbanos, it won't have the same time of 3 holidays. The Gemara says chilufav, it's substitute. Chilufe mai. What's this case? What case are you referring to of the chilufav? It says now it's going to try to narrow down the case. If you're talking about chilufe olo shlamim, the person is substituting an ola and shlamim, meaning that they lost their ola or their shlamim, and they need to bring it. They need to get a different one in its place. So now, Just see Rashi for a second. The problem is this Zoom window always covers my Rashi, or one side or the other, it's covering something. So is somebody knocking at the door? No, was that you? Nothing. Yeah. So what happened is so the person here, it's referring to a case where the person lost their ola or their shlamim, and they designated another one in its place, and then they found their first one. So it says, so the second one, therefore, so the Gemara is saying, are you trying to tell me that the second one is not subject to the laws of Baal Ta'acher? Why? It has to be considered. It has to be brought on the mizbeach just like the first one. It has to be brought as well. So it's also, of course, going to be subject to it. Why is it any different than the first one? Now you have to bring both, because if the first one was found and the second one is designated just like the first, the second one has to be brought as well. So why wouldn't it be subject to Baal Ta'acher? So that's when it comes to an ola shlamim. If you're talking about a chatas, now chatas is brought for a specific avera. So if you lose your chatas and then you designate a second. You designate a second animal as a chatas, and then you find your first animal. So the first animal gets brought as a chatas. The second animal, what do you call it? Has to be left to die. So it says lemisa. You can't bring a chatas on no avera, because you're left with no avera to bring it on. If you found your first one, you bring that on your avera. So your second chatas is going to be just have to be left to die. So it doesn't. So there, of course, there's no Baal Ta'acher in there, because it's not going to even make it through the 3 holidays, and you certainly you don't have to bring it in the first place. You just have to let it die respectfully. Elamai chilufov. So what is it referring to? We only have one left. Chilufik toda. It must be referring to the person replaced. He replaced his toda. He lost his korban toda, and then he designated another one, and then subsequently found his korban toda. Okay, so now he has 2 todas. So there, what's going to be the halacha? Okay, so now here's an issue. The toda has a specific issue. What you do in such a case, because the toda has lachmei toda that come with it. There's a whole set of breads that come as part of the korban as well. You can only bring that with a toda, and the toda needs that to be brought with. So you don't. He designated the second korban as the toda. But the question is since it needs to come with the lachmei toda, which one do you bring as the toda? Because that one's going to get the bread. The other one won't get bread, and it won't be a toda. So you can't really. There's no real good way of dealing with this. You'll be left with which one gets the bread on it. So the Gemara says, "Ditani Rabbi Chanan." We'll see over here. Toda shenis arba b'tmurasa. If a toda gets mixed up with a different animal, umesa achas mehem, and one of them, another animal, meaning, and another animal that's also could be used as a toda. So, for example, a person lost, either he made a tamura. Making a tamura there's a mesechas tamura. So later making a tamura is something that's also to do, but which means that you specifically try to move the kedusha from one animal onto another animal, or he designates another animal. Whatever the case is, he has 2 animals that are a toda, the original, and a second, and one of them dies. Chaverta ein lo takana. So it's the other animal has no way to be brought as a toda either. Because what's he going to do? Likrav lachem bahada. You want to take this animal that it's messed up, that it got mixed up with, rather. You want to take this second animal that's not that, the animal that's still alive, and bring its lechem with it. Bring the showbreads with the lechem toda with it. Dilma tamurahi. Maybe it's not the right animal to bring in. Maybe it's the tamura that's the substitute animal, and it doesn't get those breads. So what do you want to do? So maybe bring it without the bread. Dilma todahi. You can't do that because maybe it is the toda, and then it's not valid without the bread. So you're kind of left with what to do. So the Gemara says, okay. Now again, we're not trying to learn zvachim here and learn the halachas of toda. The Gemara just wants to understand what's the case where you have a switched animal, a substitute animal, and you have to bring that right away before the time violates Baal Ta'acher. So what's the case? It can't be talking about an ola and a shlamim. We said it can't be talking about a chatas. We said because that none of those are applicable. So what are we talking about? So the Toda can't be talking about a Toda either because there's no way to bring the Toda. So now what's the case where you have a substitute animal and you have a timeline on the I'm sorry, not a timeline on the substitute animal, rather, let me back that up. You have a substitute animal that needs to be brought on the Mizbeach, and there is a different timeline than the original timeline. It doesn't follow the original timeline of Baal Ta'acher of the 3 holidays. What is such a case? It says, since none of these are applicable, the Torah is not applicable. What do you need a verse to? You can't bring it anyways. What do you need a verse to tell you that you excluding it, that you don't need to bring it in that timeline? Okay, so that's the question on the table. Meaning, what when the Brisa said a substitute animal does not, it excluded a substitute animal from being subject to the timeline of Baal Ta'acher. What was the case? We don't have a case. Amar Rav Sheshas, La'olam lemute chlufe Olo Shlama. You know what? He says it must have been coming. Let's walk it back to Ola and Shlamim. It was talking about those cases. A person made a substitute of his Ola or Shlamim because he lost his original, and then found his original. The substitute does not have to be brought in that timeline of 3 holidays. And what is the case? V'humam v'chilulu al acher v'avar alav regel echad. Salkadai techamia hoa mikoach kama kasi command avar alav gimor galam dami kamash malan. So it says the following: the case is where a person said he's going to bring an ola or shlamim, but he didn't bring it right away. He didn't bring it after the first holiday. He hasn't violated. He didn't bring it after the second holiday. He hasn't violated. No problem. So after those, he has up to the 3rd holiday. The 3rd holiday, the first 2 holidays, he was stuck at home. He wasn't able to make it. He had corona, so he couldn't make it in both of those holidays. Now he's going up. He's lo and behold, he got vaccinated, second vaccinated. He got his PCR test. He is fine. He's ready to go for his 3rd holiday, and boom, his animal gets a mum, and that animal gets a blemish. He cannot bring that animal anymore on the up with him to Yerushalayim. He cannot bring that to the base of Mikdash. So he needs to put its kedusha on another animal. Question is, on that second animal, what's the timeline? Does the timeline restart, or you only get this one holiday? You already used 2 of your holidays. You only get your 3rd lifeline there on this on this animal also, or does it reboot the time? So the Gemara says that you would think that, look, you've used 2, you only get 1 left because it'll be the 3 regalim total. It says kamashal, and not that way. It's coming. It gets a new timeline because it's a new animal, even though it's coming. Even though it's coming is as a replacement for the first animal, and. Total line. Oh, thank you, John, for your contribution. So the guy says, "Ula Rabbi Meir de Amar," and Rabbi Meir who says, "De Amar Kevin Shavrulav a regal echad over Baal Ta'acher Mike Lamemar." Okay, so that all is good. That is all good according to those that say you have the 3 holidays. However, how is Rabbi Meir going to deal with chilufin, with this exclusion? Now, Rabbi Meir, if you remember earlier, was of the opinion Baal Ta'acher that the avera of delaying bringing your korban is after 1 holiday. You don't have a situation over here now, because what occurred is that if you said the case was he had 2 holidays passed, he was about to bring it on his 3rd holiday. He made it, but it developed a mum. Can't bring it anymore. He transfers the kedusha onto this animal, and now he has 3 more holidays to bring it. So, but Rabbi Meir would hold not that way. He still only has that 1 holiday. So, according to Rabbi Meir, what is this verse going to come to? What does it come to exclude in the Brisa? You know what the case is? It became a mum. It became blemished in the regel itself. Inside. So he was still on his way. He was still going to bring it on the regel, sometime over. So I guess it developed a blemish. And he, because he has all 7 days to bring it, and Yom Tov, and he transfers his kedusha onto the new animal in the regel. V'avar alav regel, but he doesn't get a chance to get up, and the whole bahala, in the whole tumult that's going on over there, he doesn't get a chance to get up and to bring this other animal onto the to the mizbeach on that regal. So he's going to wait to the next regal. Well, get Rabbi Meir holds you only have one holiday before you violated. So maybe he's violated by not bringing it on this regal. Maybe so you might think that, hey, look, this is really the timeline for this animal started with the first animal, even though that animal developed a blemish, and this one's coming it's substitute, but it's really a continuation of that animal. So once this regal passes, you violated according to Rabbi Meir. Kamashmalan, not that way. You still get another regal according to Rabbi Meir. One full regal has to pass. Okay. So the Gemara said at the very end of that whole brisa, after we've now spoke about all the different animals, all the different karbanos, all the different matanos, all the different things that need to be brought before on time, so you don't violate the avera of Baal Ta'acher. It ended off and it said and it learned if you don't do it, you will have an avera. There's one check on your avera list. So it says, and it would learn that b'chachet, you're going to have an avera, but your korban won't have an avera. I mean, your korban is still kosher. All the things still have to be brought, but you've done it not timely. So you have you get a what do you call it? You get a penalty, huh? A demerit. Yeah, you get a penalty. You get a penalty for your demerit for your bringing it late, but it still does need to be brought. So Gemara says, it learned from the end of that verse that we quoted on the top of the page. It learned that not its korban won't have a chait. The Gemara says, wait a second, you're going to learn it from that verse? We have other places to learn it from. We actually acherim. We learn it from acherim. By the way, just Gemara. I think it's in. Where is it in? Talmud? No, it's not in Talmud. It's in Harios, I believe. The Gemara acherim is actually Rabbi Meir. Towards a certain point of Rabbi Meir's life, they stopped using the name Rabbi Meir. They started calling him Achem, and they wanted to point out something that they were unhappy with that he did, so they started calling him Achem, as opposed to his Rebbe, which became known as Acher. But either way, Midacherim nafka. We learn it from Acherim. Titania. Acherim said the term Acherim Omrim. Acherim says Yachal Yehe Bechor She'avra Shenasal Kitsuli Mikdashim Hamukdashim V'Yipasel. You might think that a Bechor that passes a year, that passes the whole year passes, that it's like a puzzle it's like it's a puzzle korban v'yu pasel, and in itself becomes puzzle. Talmud v'achalta lefnei Hashem lokecha maser digancha tiroshcha v'yitzarecha u'bechoros bekarcha v'tzoncha. So it says that you should eat all these. The miser and the miser of your dagon, of your grain and your wine and your oil and the bechor, and all that should be brought to Hashem Elokecha and be eaten in Yerushalayim. It says makish bechor lemaiser. The pasuk groups bechor with miser. My miser ain't a nisal mishana lechaverta. Just like miser does not, if you pass the time when you're supposed to have brought your miser, it doesn't become possible. You've done the wrong thing again. You've gotten a penalty in the you're what do you call it? You've done an avera, but it doesn't become possible. So too a bechor doesn't become possible. So now the Gemara is asking, now it's left with the question. So we see from acherim, we learn from the verse, the juxtaposition in the verse, that a bechor does not, even though you've done an avera by waiting too long to perform the proper mitzvah with the bechor, even though you've done an avera, it still has to be brought. So why do we need the pasuk? But it brought a pasuk earlier. It said what is it? Why do we need a pasuk earlier as another source to tell us that your karbanos don't become pasul if you've waited too long? It says itzrich. We need both. Because you might say that since bechor isn't being brought as something that is, it's not being brought as something that's kind of found favor in Hashem, so to speak. It's not brought in order to as a way of for that purpose. As a hartzah, it's trying to find a favor in Hashem. It's bechor is brought is brought as a different. It's kind of it has its matana aspect, but not as bringing our hartzah. So therefore, we have for the two different groups of korban, we have two different sources. Just see something. What time? Can I still grow another minute or no? What time are we supposed to start? So the Gemara says, the Gemara says, let's see, that's true. However, Akati starting top of Amad Al, Vakati with the Ben Azai Nafka. But even so, we have another source, a third source that says that your korban won't be puzzle if you wait too long. The Tanya Ben Azai Omer also Matam Alomer Lafishan Emer Losa Achel Shamo Shemeani Af Me'achar Nidro Babal Yerotze. All right, let's stop here because I actually have to run and go back to my house and grab some children and bring them to Shachar. So I see this is going to take more than 1 minute. Okay, have a fantastic day.
Thank you.